In our world, the race for clean energy, high-tech manufacturing, and advanced defense is on. And at the heart of it all is a set of 17 obscure metals you might not have heard of, but you use every single day: rare earth elements. While China is known as the world's dominant producer, a new frontier in this strategic race is opening up, thousands of miles away. Today we're going deep into Africa, where a quiet but powerful competition for these critical resources is unfolding, driven by Chinese policy, capital, and a long-term vision. So why Africa? What makes this continent so crucial in the global rare earth chase? The answer lies beneath the ground. Africa is home to some of the world's richest, yet largely untapped, rare earth deposits. Countries like Malawi, South Africa, Namibia, and Burundi are sitting on a geological jackpot. For China, this is a golden opportunity to extend its supply chain far beyond its own borders. By securing these resources now, it can lock in lower-cost ore and favorable deals before global competitors even get a foothold. But it's not just a one-way street. African nations see the promise of foreign investment, new infrastructure, and a boost to their export earnings. The catch? It often comes without full control over their own resources or the chance to build their own processing industries. It's a complex trade-off with high stakes for everyone involved. Now, China's approach isn't just about showing up with cash and buying ore. It's a sophisticated, state-backed strategy that has been refined over decades. Looking back, we can see China's rare earth policy evolved through 5 distinct stages. It started with simply encouraging mining, then shifted to building its own high-tech manufacturing, and finally to tightening state control and managing exports. Today, that strategy has gone global. China is exporting its capital, its companies, and its unique contracting models directly into Africa's mining sector. Often this involves linking massive infrastructure projects, like new roads, railways, or ports, directly to mineral rights. This is a game changer. It means China isn't just digging up raw materials. It's aiming to control the entire value chain, from processing and refining all the way to the finished product, leaving little but the initial extraction phase for others. So why has this strategy been so incredibly effective? It's a combination of several key factors. First, China had a massive early mover advantage. It began investing heavily in rare earth mining and the complex science of separating these elements back when few other countries saw the strategic value. This gave them a multi-decade head start. Second, particularly in the early years, China was willing to accept lower labor standards and less stringent environmental regulations. This allowed them to produce rare earths at a much lower cost, effectively pricing many international competitors out of the market. By securing new sources of ore overseas in places like Africa, China also de-risks its own supply. It's no longer solely dependent on its domestic mines, which are facing their own environmental and resource limits. And finally, there's the geopolitical angle. When you control the source of a critical resource and the supply chain that delivers it, you gain immense leverage. In a world dependent on technology and green energy, this control becomes a powerful tool in global trade and international relations. For Africa, this flood of Chinese investment is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it brings the potential for economic growth and much-needed infrastructure. On the other, it raises some very serious questions. Research shows that in African countries with weaker governance and institutions, this kind of resource-focused foreign investment can actually accelerate the depletion of natural wealth without creating sustainable local industries. Some analysts are sounding the alarm, warning that without building their own capacity for value addition, like processing, refining, and manufacturing, many African nations risk getting stuck in a familiar cycle. They could end up as mere ore exporters, shipping raw materials abroad while other countries capture the real profits and technological advancements. The critical question for the continent is this: will it seize the opportunity to move up the value chain, or will it remain at the starting line? To understand how this plays out on the ground, let's look at what this Belt and Road style strategy actually looks like in the mining sector. It's a multi-pronged approach. First, you have the famous resource for infrastructure deals. In these arrangements, a Chinese company might build a new highway or a power plant in an African country. and in exchange, it gains long-term access to that nation's mineral deposits. Second, Chinese firms often secure long-term offtake agreements. These contracts guarantee that a certain amount of the mined ore will be sold to them, often at preferential prices. This can limit the host country's ability to negotiate better terms or sell to other buyers on the open market. And finally, there's the relentless focus on the downstream. China's goal isn't just to mine. It's to take that raw ore and build the entire ecosystem around it. The refineries, the magnet factories, and the final technology components. By doing this, they capture the lion's share of the value created along the way. This strategy has huge implications that ripple across the globe, impacting everything from technology and the green transition to defense. When one country gains significant control over the sources of ore, the processing facilities, and the rules of export, it gains powerful geopolitical leverage. This is especially true when other major economies are heavily dependent on that single supply chain. Think about it. The components in our smartphones, wind turbines, and advanced missile systems all rely on these elements. For Africa's other international partners and for global players like the United States and Europe, the dynamic is shifting. The competition is no longer just economic. It's deeply strategic. Nations are being forced to ask themselves some tough questions. Who is setting the terms of trade? Who is capturing the economic value? And most importantly, who controls the critical choke points in these global supply chains? So, what is the way forward in this high-stakes global game? If African nations are to truly benefit from their incredible rare earth endowments, several steps are crucial. First, they must strengthen governance, increase transparency in mining contracts, and enforce strong environmental and labor protections. This ensures that the wealth generated from these resources benefits the many, not just the few. Second, they need to actively encourage value addition within the continent. Instead of just exporting raw ore, they should be attracting investment into refineries and manufacturing plants, creating higher-skilled jobs and capturing more of the profit. And third, diversifying their partnerships is key. Relying too heavily on any single foreign investor, whether it's China or another country, creates significant risks. For its part, China is likely to double down on its strategy, but it will also face growing global pushback as countries around the world try to de-risk and build their own independent supply chains. Ultimately, the battle for rare earths is a two-front war, one for the upstream resources buried in the ground, and one for the downstream manufacturing and technology that will define our future. China has strategically made Africa a key front in its global campaign to dominate this entire value chain, from mining and refining to building the very foundations of tomorrow's technology and power. The question that remains for Africa and for the world is a profound one. Will the suppliers of raw materials forever remain at the bottom of the ladder, or will they find a way to climb up to the nodes of the network that hold the real value and power? The stakes couldn't be higher, because in this race for rare earths, the outcome won't just determine who mines the rocks, but who controls the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this deep dive interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more content that explores the forces shaping our world. We'll see you in the next video.